Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KMED. October the 8th is our date. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you. We're both real estate brokers with John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, and we get together with you once a week here on KMED to talk about all sorts of real estate-related issues and topics. In 7.5 years, Joe, we're still hanging around KMED and every weekend. What more can we do, right?
I got to say, you keep coming up with new topics and new guests and new insights into the local industry, and that's keeps it fresh. If it was just you and I here every week, the show would have been off in the horizon a long time ago.
Long time ago. Well, you think of how big again that real estate world is, and again, I was at the Arvar luncheon this past week, and I mean, there's lenders there, there's title people there, there's brokers there, there's all sorts of people, builders there, and it's this amazing kind of group. When they put them all together, it's a pretty impressive big organization that's out there that. A big lot of people that are involved in this, deep roots and a lot of people. Anyway, today on the show, Alice Lima is the real estate broker with John L. Scott. She's been on our show before. So, Alice, first of all, nice to have you back here on KMED with us.
Thanks, you guys. I love your show. It's great to be back.
Well, we just talked about September. First of all, what's going on with you and I mean, if you've been as busy as kind of we've been busy and that kind of thing. Tell us what you see the market has been before we go into the stats here that show what September was like and kind of what's happening in the market.
Well, and I think the stats we got back this week just reflect what we're all experiencing as brokers out in Southern Oregon. It's super stressful to be a buyer because it's still very much a seller's market, very, very hard, a lot of competition. And we're looking into the next 3 months to be as busy as the summer. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen very often.
So you think that the fall, everybody says, the fall and winter, it is a good time to list and sell a home because the buyers are more serious. Fewer of them, but more serious. But usually it falls off, though. But
we talked about that a year ago as well. We had a little surge past the start of the school year, which traditionally kind of slows things down. It looks like it's going to continue this year for that demand for that inventory that we have.
Yes, and we're getting so many people being transferred into our area that it's creating more pressure on an already small inventory. So our normal fall slump is not really happening, and we didn't have that many houses to sell to start with for the summer.
Where are they coming from, and what are they doing?
I have people coming from New Mexico, from Florida, from Manhattan, and our usual Bay Area, L.A.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, what you say, again, our listener, we hear this every week. I mean, we hear the same things from the lenders, from the other people who come through here, that people are coming here. We said that, I think, was it in one of our office meetings, Alice, that Oregon remains still the destination in the country and is the number one destination when Californians move out. And remember, Oregon and Idaho. Oregon and Idaho are right up there at the top. So you can see where that and the effect that's having still. But transferring in, these are job-related kinds of things you're talking about.
And what kind of jobs do they bring, or what are they doing here that they're able to come and find,
We're getting mostly medical people.
Okay.
High demand for our hospital staff and the affiliate to the medical industry. Every once in a while, we'll get somebody who's working in the federal government with the forestry, fish and wildlife, fire, stuff like that. But mostly it's medical.
Interesting. Well, this is a medical area.
Huge regional medical center.
Shoot, if I had to go work in a huge medical facility, or would you rather work around Asante or somewhere around here? I'd rather be around here, wouldn't you? Providence and those places? Yeah. Absolutely. Well, anyway, September, let's just take a look at those, Alice, because I think the stats also help tell that story, for our listeners. Pending sales during September compared to a year ago. All right, pending sales up 11%. Overall in the county, down. Again, it's not the same in different areas. East Medford is different than Central Point. Ashland is different than Eagle Point. So, but overall, up 11%. New listings were up 2%. That's one of the few times that we've seen new listings up a little bit, but still 2% versus 11% is another 9% gap. So we've talked about the gap between
the widening gap,
the pending sales and new listings, and that gap continues to go. And I don't know if that's, maybe it still might narrow. Alice, how do you see getting more listings or more sales? Because people got to list the houses before you can sell them. Everybody tells me that's the only way this thing is going to change from a seller's market. Is that correct?
Yes, and I think we still have a backlog of sellers who are not aware that the market is stabilizing, that their mortgages might be less now than their value. So I think some of it is just education. It takes a long time to get the word out to the masses. But also, we need people that are seriously going to downsize, that are not afraid to be a buyer. We have people who are nervous about finding a house before they sell.
Because there's not yet right.
Even the ones that are educated, we have lots of people that would sell their house if we could find them one, and there's just too much competition if they're downsizing. The people that are having the best time right now are the upsizers. The interest rates are low. You can go out and get that dream home, that mansion, that little country estate that you always wanted that's affordable still. And if your house is in the mid-price range or mid-value range where everybody's fighting over it, you'll get the best of both worlds.
You're going to get a great value.
Yeah.
And that's going to move quickly for you, too, and get you on your way to where you want to go.
And you'll have more selection if you're upsizing.
More select, yes, because there's more available
and
homes.
Fewer fights over the properties.
If you go to Days in the Market in September, one of the things that I know in our office, again, is you try to sell everything within 30 days. You want to sell something within 30 days. And the average in the month of September, Joe, was 36 days across the MLS. That's amazing. Yeah. It's different. Again, it was 70 days in Ashland versus, 20 days in White City. But it's just overall 36 days. That to me
that's again encouraging for sellers. And to Alice's point on sellers, I think, I run a CMA on my house about every 3 weeks. I know what houses around me are doing. Yeah. I mean, it's inherent in what we do. Sellers who have been through this incredible rise and fall and the rise again, I don't think they really, unless, it might not even cross their mind of how well they might be sitting now compared to just 3 years ago in the equity and what you paid down in your loan and your ability. I think we try to catch their ears on this program to let them know it might be time to call a real estate professional to take a look at what you got and what you might be able to do.
In September, the sellers were getting 96.1% of their asking price, by the way. And what do you think the two hottest places where they got almost 100% of their asking price was in these stats? The two areas in Jackson County. What would you think those were without looking? Okay, I'm going to tell you, it's White City and Talent. Almost had 99% of the list of the price that they were getting because there's inventory is low and demand is high.
How many sales in Talent? But because that's one that's
I don't know. Anyway, but
I know someone who's been peeking around there and
there's not much inventory. Let me tell you, that's why,
especially for those little 1-2 acre little parcels.
That's why they don't stay for but a few days. But the bad news, I suppose, if there's those clouds that are in these stats, we'll continue on here, is the month supply of inventory continues to drop. It dropped 30% from a year ago, still dropping to 2.2 months. 2.2 months. And then the available homes per buyer is down also 23% to 3.3 homes per buyer. And the you want like 6, isn't it? Wasn't 6 the average 6 month supply? And we're down to 2 months supply there.
And I'd like to make a note on that because here's why people should sell right this second, regardless of the election. The election doesn't matter. This is an economic thing.
Okay.
So we've got low interest rates. We have very few competing homes, and the normal days on market is 180. A normal neutral market is 6 months.
Right,
It should take you 6 months to sell your house, not 6 minutes. So if you want to get out from under that asset, if you want to get onto something bigger, better, something smaller, something more comfortable, investment property, you want to do it now while it's a seller's market because this is not going to be here forever.
Yeah.
Things are trying to stabilize. 5 years ago, the market looked way different. Some of our areas have appreciated more than 50% in 5 years.
Yeah.
White City, 100%.
Wow.
So it has bounced back 100% from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
As the market tries to stabilize, sellers are going to need more offers over more time to get their house sold.
A lot of
sellers
aren't really getting that or aware that their numbers have maybe come so far so fast.
And they can get their house sold this fall, and next year it might be different.
Yeah.
And she mentioned the election. Can we talk about the election?
No.
I think we have a more depressing
that.
subject.
I would tell you, though, that one of the things that's happening with that is the buyers that are coming in are being more sophisticated, and they're being pretty picky what they're looking for, too.
Yeah.
And that as we go along. But again, the final stat I'll share with you is the market breakdown that we share with people, and that, again, in that $150,000 to $250,000 price range, the available month supply of inventory is 0.5. That's a half a month. That's why
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
That's
and
2
that's
weeks.
why
So you can't be
offers.
picky.
Multiple offers. This is what's happening with that.
But then
still.
it means people don't want to move. If they have a house to sell and that's the price range they have to compete in, then they're holding off on selling their house.
Yeah. Again, this is over.
So that stagnates progress in that.
And some people are worried about the election. Some people are holding off to see what happens.
Sure. In the 200,
the country's going to implode.
In the
just slowly,
the sun will come up.
In the $250,000 to $350,000 price range, there's just a 3/4 month supply, and that's changed. That's a real popular price. That's probably one of the more popular
That's
price
why
ranges.
upsizers, if you can go up over $350,000 and get your dream home, you'll have a lot more selection. You won't have to fight for it.
Well, and you're right.
And your present property may have you pretty close to there already.
And now
you should take a look.
Right now, you've got double the available inventory in the 350 to 500 range versus the lower range.
Pete is crunching the numbers today. Yeah.
So it's just those are the things that tell you and why the market is doing what it is. So when we talk about sellers markets, I mean, the stats don't lie. That's what we're seeing.
And think of the flooded inventory 6 years ago we were talking about, and the REOs and the short sales that dominated the sales in the market. It is such a Jekyll and Hyde kind of 180-degree deal. It's been really interesting to track.
So one of the things, Alex, I wanted to ask you was that, again, people, as we get into kind of tense situations, buyers and sellers, the people are, right? People are tense with this. It's crazy?
No, it gets pretty tense.
Well, it does.
Have you ever done a transaction that didn't?
I like them when
everybody was all relaxed.
I like them when they go smooth. But anyway, I'm talking about how do you deal with some of the things that people should do. I'm talking about mostly inspections. I know you guys have had you guys have been working on a transaction together, which is really cool in West Medford. But tell me how. One of the things that happens in transactions everywhere, you get your home inspection, and we had Dan Huckins was in here. We talked about pre-home inspections for people like me who trying to sell my house, and I don't know what I'm up against. I've lived there 25 years. Everything works, but maybe not the way it's supposed to. So, do you think some sellers should get pre-home inspections? Have you ever done that? Does it help? Do you think, or how do you guide clients? Tell us.
Yeah, I think it helps a lot. And even if you're a buyer and you have an available inspection from your seller, you still want to get your own because houses change in 24 hours sometimes. Right. But it really helps the seller know what to expect ahead of time and not be surprised. And if you have one available to give to the buyer, it calms them down a little bit about writing offers, especially on older houses. And the transaction that Joe and I have been working through the last few weeks, the house is older. There's things going on with it. It's all been resolved and it's going to be fine. But it just was, I think, a big surprise to both of us because the house is completely updated. It's cute. All this work has already been done on it. Who would have guessed there were all these issues? And buyers will sometimes get scared and walk.
Oh, well, that's what's happening, I think, in a lot of situations. That's what we're hearing from the title companies this week. There's people are walking.
And interestingly enough, the sellers of this property bought it in 2009. But it's a different bill of health now, almost 10 years later. Think of that 10 years on the roof of an older home. Just the electrical. Even in the time, the condition that they bought it in, they were a little surprised. But when we looked at a 10-year period of the house at that age, it was pretty reasonable. And the things that were on there were just natural things that if you were the landlord and continued to be to rent the property, you'd have to deal with or take care of anyway.
Well, and see, the other thing is it's still a seller's market, and my buyer doesn't have that many choices. And my seller, especially in this price range, they have all the choices in the world. They can put it back on the market and fish for another buyer. Right. So it's really a tense moment because the repairs need to be done in some circumstances, either to satisfy a lender or because an elderly buyer has no other way. And then we have a seller who really doesn't have to do this if they don't want to.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're right. You can put it back on the market.
We'll sell it to somebody else.
But also have the option to cash in on the property and do some things for their future and for their present home that they also own. So there was some option. There was some incentive there to get the deal done. And when the appraisal and the repairs were all kind of added up, we got a clear picture of where we're at. But yeah, it can really. That gets a little tense, and it's gosh, you're the seller, you're looking at value that I'm losing, but if you're the buyer, you're looking at things I've got to have right. I can't get my loan, and I can't get the deal done.
Yeah, some people tend to take those homes, old places, and walk away, as you say, pretty easily. Sellers, buyers, will tend to just say, I don't want to mess with them. But then I hadn't thought of that, Alice. The inventory out there after that. Is not very much. Yeah. But then you got to have buyers and sellers have got to agree on who does what and how it pays for and all those kind of things in the deal. It's not going to work anyway. So you're not out of the woods yet.
At our open house on 4th Street, I told you those young families I met been looking for 3-4 months in that price range and were really working at it, but hadn't found one yet.
We're with Alice Lima on our John Alscott Market Watch show today here on the Real Estate Show and KMED. We're coming right back with more, right after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. October the 8th is our date. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows. We've got some terrific shows online for you. Just go to realestateshowOregon.com, and you can check any of them there. We're also on our YouTube channel, so we thank you for doing that. Lots of good shows, insurance, inspections, home estate sales, things like that, and again, I'm just amazed that we got to have Lance Landers back in here, Joe, the estate sale guy. They were in here a few months ago, I think. I think he's had one every week. I mean, they're just backed up. There's so many people trying, to again downsize and upsizing whatever sizing they're doing. And the demand is so great.
Again, my estate sale is going to be probably a garage sale. So Lance could take that weekend off.
No, Lance probably will not be coming to you. No. Anyway, Alice Lima from John L. Scott, broker there, is with us today on the Real Estate Show. We've got a Market Watch show for you. Those SOMLS stats have been out showing you a lot of activity, a lot of demand, and continuing to be a seller's market around. Just another quick thing here, the 3-month period. Was July, August, and September. That's the hardest summer right there. July, August, and September. 710 sales in Jackson County compared to 780 a year before. It was down. New construction still doing well. 77 new homes sold during that period, 3-month period.
116 new homes in the Summerfield latest phase. Are just cleared the Planning Commission. Yeah. That's going to be a little boost to the tax rolls.
More inventory there.
To the economy.
Rural homes down 20 from a year ago, but still 152 rural properties that changed hands in that 3-month period, and on it goes. Alice, one of the things that, again, we'll end this topic here, but I want you to give, again, people some advice regarding how you deal with the inspection. You get your inspection back, and, I've seen some, not in my class, I've not had experiences, but I've seen 3 and 4 pages of stuff. I mean, it's like single line. We want this. It comes to whatever. Now, that's just kind of overkill with it. So what are you kind of advice to people?
The nightmare.
Yeah, the nightmare. So what are you advising clients and our listeners today, Alice, about how to deal with the home inspection from the buyer's side and the seller's side of this thing?
Well, I think you need to keep in mind that there's a difference between a whole house inspection, which is designed to give you every little nook and cranny, flush every toilet, run the dishwasher, check all the outlets. That's so you have complete information.
Right.
And the appraiser is going to do a condition inspection as well. So I am all about health and safety. If there's something on the home inspection, there's something about the roof, there's something about your furnace, there's something about your foundation, then those need to be addressed. And I'd like to look at what each loan program is going to require. An FHA buyer's loan program is going to have a very strict set of standards that need to be adhered to. So we might as well get that done while we're in our home inspection phase. The Veterans Association program has a very strict.
The lenders have each have a different kind of qualification of how they're going to interpret that home inspection, right? Yeah. Okay.
But I think you want to be balanced in your repair requests because you don't want the seller to walk away,
right?
Especially in a seller's market. But at the same time, you want a house that's going to be healthy and safe for you to move into.
Right.
So just be you want to be realistic. You also want to be aware of what your loan program is. Some people don't know that you cannot have plants touching your building,
right?
And a lot of times they will not ask for that in their home repair. And I say, well, we have to do because your appraiser is going to ask for that. So let's just get it done now.
Mm-hmm. Those kind of things. So you got the home inspection. What about for buyers? I mean, you talk about sellers and buyers each looking at this differently, right? The inspection,
right?
So you're saying health and safety is kind of the issues. But what do you do when you come back and you say I want something else fixed? I mean, don't you? What do you do with that at that point?
Well, I think it depends on what the request is. If it's completely unreasonable for the suitability of the property, a buyer is asking for a seller to build a ramp for a sports car. I've actually had somebody do that. That's not realistic. So, you just want to be aware of what the people you're negotiating with are able to do, what's suitable to the property, and don't be too outrageous because you're not going to get it and it's going to delay the whole process. Mm-hmm. So for a seller, when you're getting these reports back, don't be offended. This is not a personal statement. It is what it is. If one of your outlets wiring is crossed and it was that way when you bought it, okay. The electrician needs to be called if that is a big deal. If it's going to be a big deal.
Mm-hmm. No. And Alice works both sides of this with sellers and with buyers. So just that knowledge, it helps to have a real estate professional guiding you because you can head off a lot of those issues before they come issues, and you know the drill and you know the potential deal blockers that are coming and can get out in front of them. And that's where that guidance really pays off.
Well, you don't want to lose the deal over it. Right. And again, what's interesting about listening to the both of you talk about it, and again, for listeners, is that in this situation, which is a seller's market, and you get it, the buyers also don't want to leave because there's not a lot of inventory out there. So you got to come together and do it. And as hard sometimes as it is, and as frustrating as it is, you can reach a decision, can you? You both try to do it.
Yes, you can. Yeah. And you don't want buyers just taking houses that are falling apart, and then you don't want sellers that are refusing to do anything.
Right.
Because neither of those is a reasonable stand, especially with older homes.
Yeah.
So if you're a seller, maybe you can have your real estate agent explain to you what the different loan program requirements are so that if you get an offer from an FHA buyer, a VA buyer, a USDA buyer, then you're already aware of what the appraiser is likely to call out on your house.
Mm-hmm. And really identifying the key issues and really the key things that are going to need to be dealt with, and find the common ground on those, and then the little stuff you can take care of from there. But it doesn't always happen, and it doesn't always come together. But it's great when it does for people, and when you can get to terms on those things.
Yeah, well, you need to have the inspections, and you got to deal with them, and
due diligence.
Don't give up. I mean, you anyway,
don't give up.
Out of that thing. Let me change topics with you because I know that you deal. I mean, one of the areas that we're seeing, we talk about so much on the show is the changing real estate world with recreational marijuana, vineyards, the growth of that, GMO, all of those things combined that are doing to our rural properties and the pressures and the demands that they're making and how it's changing our whole culture here in our valley. The demand is still continuing. Tell me your experience right now with that, Alice, in terms of those rural properties and grows, vineyards, things like that are still, there's still huge demand.
Well, it's kind of the green rush, if you want to call it that. The green rush.
It's still on. Okay.
And the businesses are evolving. They're becoming more organized. They're becoming more business-like now that it's legal. We're having more sophisticated people with money and distribution systems come in and kind of take what I would call the second stage of business.
Growing being the first, and that began last year.
And now we have the affiliates come in. We were talking during the break about the effect it's starting to have into the commercial real estate market, where our warehouses are starting to get more bids, and the commercial on the high traffic areas are starting to sell again. And that's been a little bit of a soggy market here in Southern Oregon, and the growers and the medical and recreational marijuana is giving some support to that. But in the United States, Oregon is still the number one fastest appreciating area, and number 2 is Colorado, and number 3 is Washington. California is number 10.
It's probably when you look a coincidence.
National stats, the whole country is not having a renaissance of their home market. It's really isolated to certain parts of the country.
Yeah, have you ever seen anything like this? I mean, what's going on?
Silicon Valley. I grew up in Silicon Valley. This is the last time
analogy.
I saw.
Yeah.
Well, now that's the
Right
first,
in front of my eyes. It's happening again.
Well, that is the first time I have to say I've ever heard the marijuana, recreational marijuana, compared to the Silicon Valley in terms of growth. But that may not be that. You may not be that far off.
And I love the fact that you point out the commercial markets now starting to feel some of the uplifting effects of it, because first it took for the growers to get properties, get established, get licensed. The process going through the OLCC is taking place. There are legal grows that are being set up. So now there's going to be demand for processing, preparation, and distribution.
And testing.
And testing. And those are all in the counties and in the municipalities and the cities are all being zoned into the commercial areas where other activities like that take place. And you're right, it's going to eventually create a seller's market and a leaser's market for those commercial spaces down the line.
Is it creating jobs along the way? I hope it is. Is it generating wealth in our communities? It certainly seems to be.
And we need it.
There's a lot going on. Anyway, we got one more segment to go. We're with Alice Lehman today on The Real Estate Show here on KMED. Don't forget, check out all of our past shows at realestateShowOregon.com. We're coming right back to AM 1440, FM 106.7, right after this. The Real Estate Show rolls on KMED. October the 8th is our date. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you. Don't forget, you can check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com anytime, and we hope you'll do that as well. Next week, the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors program will be in here. Jim Botsford will talk about niche kinds of lendings that are out there. Part of the RVAR series of education programs that we're bringing you from the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. And today, Alice Lehman from John L. Scott is here on our Market Watch program today. When we left before that last break, we were talking about kind of the changes coming with recreational marijuana has brought in. And you guys are right. I didn't think about this in terms of, you talk about phase 1, phase 2, and kind of phase 3 in this whole world that we've entered. The original one was the land itself, right? Was getting growing sites, getting that. And that's now been solved, right, in the county and the cities, right? Where you can do this and where you can't.
No, we're going to vote on a lot of that in November here, but by January 1st, it's all going to be kind of, the rules are going to be in place for everybody.
So that's taking place. The first big harvest is happening this year. And then Alice is saying, in the commercial side of things, look what's going on there in terms of the space now being used. You got processing.
We got to process that big harvest.
You said distributing. And then also I was thinking they're also making testing and other products out of it too, right? It's just not just buds. I mean, there's other things coming as well. Whoops, I'm sorry.
There's soaps, there's food, there's oils, there's machinery to create these different products safely and with some sanitation. It's not a do-it-yourself program anymore.
We've seen some bad examples of that in the news.
Kaboom.
So all of this that you're saying, this processing, so a lot of the things that are being grown come into this type of endeavor, right? A lot of it is. So it's really interesting what it's going to create, how many jobs, the wealth it brings into the valley. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. I don't know, man. There's
got to be workers in the fields. There's going to be workers in the plants.
I just worry about issues of water. I mean, out there. I mean, issues. There's a lot of issues that are still unresolved. Water being maybe the biggest one of all.
And why don't we own a water trucking company now already? Why? You and I are businessmen. We're entrepreneurs. What are we thinking? I'm talking big trucks, triple trailers.
We're talking tree clearing, fence building, and water hauling. Those are the three big
and surveillance.
Security
and surveillance.
Right.
All right, let me ask you one thing. I'm going to get off this topic. Is Jackson County held their hearing yet on the big watchtowers that some of these people want to put in? I think that's just disgraceful. They should not be allowed to do that.
No, they shouldn't. There's no way you can tell if they're going to be able to control what they look at with those big cameras with neighbors next door. They tell you that they're going to be within limitations, but that you can change that with a keystroke or a mouse click.
I wouldn't.
And any kind of digital program, but that is a hot debate. It's going to be because it's required by the OLCC. That security element is required.
I know it is. But what's going to happen, though, is what I fear, and Alice, see if this is true, that the value of these properties is going to decline if these neighbors and the
big
complaints
brothers
and all kinds
on a
of
pole
things
looking
that have
down at you,
Do you think that's going to happen, though? I mean, it's possible
that there would be some devalue.
Yes. Because of this. I mean, I think we see.
That's what it would feel like to me. Well, somebody's got a camera on a pole next to my property.
Well,
I don't know what they're looking at.
Anyway, I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope we're smart enough that we do not need to have that kind of thing.
It feels intrusive, and that's what we're trying to.
All right.
Part of the whole deal here is trying to be good neighbors, correct?
Yes, it is. And
people have a pretty valid.
And the vineyards don't have to do that.
No.
Well, let's face it. They're treating it. And my other complaint on it is that we're treating this as an agriculture product, which they've claimed it is, which means subsidized property taxes, subsidized water. And, it's not the same as growing potatoes to me and things like that, but that's a whole other discussion for another day. Okay, back to the market here, Alice. You're saying, before we get out of here, that you're looking for the fall to be a pretty interesting and pretty big, spectacular fall here.
I think so. I think because we had such low inventory during the summer, which is when we usually have a lot of homes and properties to sell. And so we started with a low inventory, and we're going into a time which organically declines a little bit anyway. So I think it's going to be very, very tight. We have enough people that are moving into the area. We have plenty of buyers. There's actually a backlog of buyers. It's going to be getting the sellers, getting the word out. And it's great you guys are doing the show. We can educate some of those sellers that this is a great time to sell because it's not going to take 6 months to sell your house. And the interest rates are so low that whatever property you get, you're going to get a good deal and really be set for the next 30 years. So hopefully we can keep some of those sellers motivated, get their houses on the market before the holidays, and get them into escrow.
And get them and guide them too, because they're going to have to find a place to get into, and that timing of all of that with some professional help can really go much more smoothly for them if they lay it all up right and have that guidance from the start.
Yeah, and you think they're going to continue moving here? I mean, that's not going to slow down, is it? So that's why over the winter, this is probably, you guys are right. You guys may be right here, which is I'm going to say not surprising, but that's really good.
Well, we'll see. We'll know soon.
When the backlog gets so big,
far,
they're not going to be in a place to rent. I mean, these poor people are going to be out living in the woods waiting for a home to buy.
Was discouraging that you said that the planning departments have just not had any new kinds of things come forward, that right now we're sitting on what we have, whether it's developed and whatever, and there ain't nothing else coming.
The county's that way. Medford has still got a huge inventory in the Southeast plan.
Okay.
In the Summerfield divisions there. The Mahar 116 homes that just passed, I mentioned, is just a small drop in the bucket. What is potentially coming out there? But that's driven by the market conditions of how many laborers we have, how many homes we can sell to generate the next round and create that next subdivision. So it's going to be kind of a long, slow process to create inventory, and it's being created in a market where there's already very tight inventory, and so that bodes for a long time until we get ahead of that game.
Still concerned with the poor renters and the rental market. We'll have a show on that coming up with Sterling West Property Management here soon. Because that's still a big issue.
To hear
I'm down in Ashland at our office there, and I swear every time I'm in there, there's one or two people that walk in there and ask about rentals. That they're looking to rent, and you just it's tough. I mean, you got to be honest with people, and there's not much here.
I tell them if they find one, I've got 3 other people that are looking too. So if it's a duplex, let me know.
Speaking of duplex, it creates a nice opportunity for landowners. If you live in a municipality inside the city limits, a lot of them will allow you to build a second dwelling legally.
Yes,
and it won't cost that much because they're usually half the size of the main house, and you have instant rent income because there's so many people that need a place to rent.
I've said also people who are buying places want like that with an additional dwelling unit who are going to retire here but are buying now and going to retire in a few years before prices they think are going to climb even higher. And
Very smart.
They can rent the front, they can live in the back when they come and visit and things like that. So all of these things are out there, aren't they? They're all putting pressure on prices and values that we're seeing.
But it's also opportunity. So if you've ever wanted to be an investor, this is also a great time. If you own a property and you have room in your backyard, maybe go explore with a lender what it would take to create that additional unit, or go buy something that's already built.
ADUs are big. I agree with you there on those. Okay,
hey, and if you're taking a beating in the stock market, give real estate a try. It might just be kind of a steady eddy going forward for you.
You can check out Alice Lima. AliceLima.com is her website too. She's a John L. Scott broker. You can Google her as well. Thank you, Alice, for being here. We always appreciate you coming on and giving us your insights. Okay, we'll do it again.
Yay, thank you so much. Great to see you guys.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you next weekend here on The Real Estate Show. God bless to you all.
You've been listening to The Real Estate Show on KMED Radio, presented by the Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, along with John L. Scott Real Estate of Southern Oregon and Bank 34 Mortgage. For guest contact information, download our free app, or to watch a past show, visit us online at realestateshowOregon.com. This show is produced by Table Rock Productions. Join us again next weekend for Southern Oregon's one and only Real Estate Show on KMED. And thank you for making the Real Estate Show part of your weekend.